So the other night, I was sitting around, minding my own business, and watching Taylor Swift's boyfriend win another Super Bowl, when suddenly, and without warning, this happened. It turns out that the sequel to Twister, called Twisters, is coming out later this year. After being thoroughly annoyed that a movie this stupid would get a sequel almost 3 decades later, I thought to myself, hey, why not go back and watch the original Twister? And that's what we're going to talk about today. Do you like divorced couples arguing over and over again?
No!
Well, then I've got a movie made just for you. Head to the basement and take cover, folks, as we take a spoiler-heavy look at Twister.
Thank you!
So, Twister starts like any great movie, in Oklahoma, a state that's famous for its football, its corn, and its growling tornadoes. One of which is headed toward the home of the Thornton family. But luckily for them, they have a storm shelter, and they're able to get to safety pretty quickly. However, there's one small problem. The storm shelter door, which is supposed to withstand the wind of a tornado, is locked by a single door latch that you can get at Lowe's for $1.99 for some reason. So, naturally, Mr. Thornton, in an effort to protect his wife and daughter Jo, decides to hold the door to keep it from being ripped away from the storm. Oh well, I hope they kept their receipt for that lock.
All sales are final.
We then cut to 30 years later, and now we see Jo all grown up and in charge of a team of storm chasers who are preparing to head out in search of tornadoes. And it's here that we meet the rest of our characters. There's Rabbit, the map guy, Alan, his driver, Lawrence, the photographer, and, worst of all, Dusty. Now, you may be asking yourself, is that Philip Seymour Hoffman? Yes, it is. Does this character get old really fast?
Loser!
Yes, he does. And there are also like 5 other members of the team. There's Beardy, Girl with Glasses, Eyeballs. You know what? It doesn't really matter. They're just kind of there. And now, a word from our sponsors.
Ram.
Driving this achievement in automotive prowess is Bill,
Big dream!
Joe's ex-husband, and his fiancée, Melissa, who arrived to pick up the divorce papers from Joe. But as Bill says hello to the rest of the team, he's surprised to learn that they're all working on a tornado mapping system that he designed called Dorothy. Get it? Because of tornadoes?
Now I get it.
However, there's just one small problem.
How do you get it in the tornado?
Well, you got to get in front of the tornado and put it in the damage path, and then get out again before it picks you up, too.
It's a suck zone.
Sadly, however, this weather-based reunion is cut short as the team learns that a tornado may be forming close by. So they set off to find it in hopes of putting Dorothy to the test. Then suddenly, out of nowhere, the team is intercepted by Jonas, the bad guy of the movie. What makes him bad? Well, he drives a black car. And worst of all,
Jonas went out and got himself some corporate sponsors.
and if that wasn't bad enough, Jonas and his team have stolen Bill's design of Dorothy and have made their own tornado probe tube thing, whatever this is, who cares. After getting in a fight with Jonas, Bill takes a moment to reconnect with nature.
Paint with all the colors of the wind.
Eventually, both teams get word of a tornado starting to form, and they all race off to be the first to get there. And at this point, let me just say that if you thought this team that you're supposed to care about was annoying before, so finally, 30 minutes into a movie about tornadoes, we see a tornado, which has apparently sucked up a choir of children. And because they have to position Dorothy in the path of a tornado in order for it to work, Bill and Joe drive in front of it and take cover under an old wooden bridge. Now, how does the bridge not collapse on top of them? I'm not sure. Didn't this same tornado just destroy a massive barn seconds ago? Yes, it did. Now, did you enjoy this scene? I hope so, because the same thing is going to happen about 6 other times in this movie, so just get ready.
Where's my truck?
Speaking of which, our two rival teams get word of yet another tornado that's not too far away. But this time, Jonas and his team are in the lead. Luckily for our team, Bill can speak to the wind, and he's able to figure out where the tornado is going. And it's here that we see what's probably the most famous part of the movie.
Cow.
With all of that excitement over, the team only has one thing on their mind.
Hey!
plans. So they head over to the nearby town of Wakita, and it's here that we meet Joe's Aunt Meg, who makes wind chimes and slaughters her own meat.
Where'd you get all this beef?
Did you see my cows out front?
As the team dines on freshly slaughtered cows, they take the time to inform the audience about the different types of tornadoes.
F2.
F3?
5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12.
And, most nefarious of all,
Is there an F5?
now, I'm going to pause right here, and I just want to point out something real quickly. The one thing about this movie that makes me laugh out loud every time is when she says F5, someone drops their fork. I'm going to rewind it so you can hear it again.
Is there an F5?
It's just so stupid. Anyway, right on cue, as if it were an act break, it's time to head to another tornado. And once again, they run into Jonas's team. Wow, it's like this movie is just the same sequence over and over again. Weird. As Bill and Joe get closer, they discover that this is no ordinary tornado. It loves boating, can cause explosions, and can even make it rain when the sun is out. And after pressing a few random buttons, Joe and Bill are able to get Dorothy ready. But the tornado has other plans. However, not all is lost, and Bill confesses to Joe that he's still in love with her, which creates a really awkward moment for Dusty and Melissa, who are listening on the CB radio.
It's a suck zone.
Finally, we get a break from this stupid movie by seeing a glimpse of a much better movie, and the team has decided to take a break at a local drive-in movie. In her hotel, Melissa has a lot on her mind, like, can she save her relationship? How much would a pawn shop give her for this engagement ring? But then she notices that things are getting eerily quiet.
Yeah, a little too quiet.
And it's here that we get to witness the greatest performance in the history of film.
It's headed right for us! It's already here.
And then Joe does this for some reason. I get that the movie wants to show that she has a personal reason why she does what she does, but I think they made that pretty clear when we saw her dad die in the first 2 minutes of the movie. That, or she's the only meteorologist who's never seen a tornado until today. Either way, it's really stupid.
Joe, come on!
Anyway, the team then takes cover in a nearby mechanic shop, and as they start to rethink their decision to take cover inside a metal building that's full of sharp objects, the storm literally throws everything it has at them, like cars, hubcaps, and even hoses. After the tornado dies down, the team takes a moment to assess the damage. However, after hearing that another large tornado is going to hit Wakita, they decide to race off and make sure that Aunt Meg is okay. And it's here that Melissa decides that she and Bill should part ways.
Be safe at the motel. I'll see you in the morning.
I won't be there.
And honestly, she's handling this really well. I mean, she got dragged all the way to Oklahoma, she was put in life-threatening situations against her will, and she had to be close to Dusty all day. That would be enough to make anyone go crazy.
The suck zone.
So the fact that she's being so nice about all this is pretty impressive. So long, Melissa. After the team gets to Wakita, they find that Meg's house is about to collapse, and in a condition which no one could survive, except that Meg is actually okay, all things considered, and after the EMTs check her out and Bill saves the dog, really all she needs is a good insurance agent. With Meg okay, the team decides to listen to the Exposition Radio Network, and they learn that 2 large storms have joined together to form the Mega Powers, and that this will cause the largest storm that the area has seen in 30 years. With this in mind, Joe comes up with a plan on how to make the Dorothy sensors fly.
What is it?
She wants everyone to cut up aluminum cans and make propellers so that they can be picked up into the funnel of the tornado. So the team gets to work, and after apparently doing tons of damage to their hands, they're able to get them ready just in time for the final showdown with our final tornado. Then Bill and Joe drive up, pretty much right next to the tornado. And when I say right next to it, I mean they're like 75 yards away from it. And somehow, despite trees being ripped out of the ground and semi-trucks being thrown through the air, the Ram 2500 is strong as ever.
Guts, glory, Ram.
In the middle of all this, Jonas and his team show up again, and for once they're in a better position than Bill and Joe, which is great for them, but sadly this tornado has other plans. Then Bill gives his review of The Last Jedi for some reason. Now that the tornado has tasted blood, it wants more, and so it throws everything it has at Joe and Bill in order to quench its taste for human flesh. Then Bill and Joe decide that an open floor concept would really do wonders for this house.
Just seems a little pricey for a unique fixer-upper opportunity, that's all.
After a quick change of direction, Bill and Joe head into a cornfield and set the cruise control, one of the many great features that come standard on a Dodge Ram, and then watch as the tornado picks up the Dorothy sensors in a glorious light show.
Dear God, it's beautiful.
However, this moment is short-lived when they suddenly realize that they're 50 yards away from a tornado. Like, seriously, what did they think was going to happen here exactly? Aren't these people scientists? Don't you have to be at least kinda smart to be scientists? I guess not.
Yes, science!
So now we're entering the final 5 minutes of the movie, which culminates in possibly one of the dumbest moments ever committed to film, where we see Joe and Bill actually run away from a tornado, and along the way, they dodge parts of houses, farm equipment, and projectile fence posts. Finally, this slow speed chase ends up in a well house, where the pipes are anchored 30 feet into the ground.
These pipes go down at least 30 feet!
How did Bill know that? I'm not sure, but luckily for them, there are 2 old leather straps in the well house that have been specially engineered to withstand tornadoes, apparently. Boy, it sure would have been nice if Joe's dad had a couple of these, then this wouldn't have happened.
Oh no!
Anyway, as the tornado rips apart the well house, you get to see what's in the center of a tornado. I mean, it's just wind, I don't know what you would expect to see there. And as the tornado goes away, Bill and Joe kiss, and that's it, the movie's over. And when it's all said and done, the movie that we get is fairly competently made, but it's padded with a bunch of forgettable and annoying characters, and has a script that defies all logic and reason. So pretty much it's your standard mid-90s summer blockbuster. Now, for those who don't know, and what I will certainly acknowledge, is that this movie was a massive hit, making over $500 million against a $92 million budget. In fact, it was the second highest grossing movie of 1996, coming in second only to Independence Day. It also spawned several other tornado-related movies, like Night of the Twisters, as well as the aptly named Tornado. But looking at it now, you just have to ask yourself, why would someone want to make this movie? Starting on the acting side of things, this movie is a masterclass in forgettable characters, so much so that you don't care if you know any of their names, and the ones that you do remember, you kind of don't want to. Even Alan Ruck, who I think is actually a very good actor, and has given some very solid performances over his long career, just kind of blends into the background.
In a severe lightning storm, you want to grab your ankles and stick your butt in the air.
Now, I don't know who told Philip Seymour Hoffman that this was a good idea, but they deserve to be drug into the street and beaten with sticks. This character is so annoying that he's hard to watch, and honestly, if he were a real person, you would just be telling him to shut up all the time.
The suck zone.
And speaking of good actors, one man who will never be remembered as one is Bill Paxton. Now, let me be clear, he seemed like he was a very nice guy, and in interviews that I had seen of him over the years, he seemed very down-to-earth and very approachable. And without a doubt, he certainly made a very unique place for himself in Hollywood, and was part of some very big movies over the years.
That's it, man. Game over, man. It's game over.
However, this man could not act. In every movie he's in, his delivery is so strange and off-putting, it's like he's reading the script for the first time every time he says a line of dialogue.
There you go. It's sayonara in 2 microseconds.
But on a small side note, he was a very talented director. In fact, he made a small horror film called Frailty back in the early 2000s. It's very good, and I would recommend it if you've never seen it before. On a technical level, a lot of the effects stuff is pretty rough, but this is 1996. I don't want to harp on that too bad because a lot of that is just limitations of the time. Finally, the script of this movie is paper thin, which is evident by the fact that the movie is essentially just the same sequence over and over again. The entire movie plays out like this. The team is told that there's a tornado. The team races to a tornado. They then get too close to the tornado and they survive the tornado. And that repeats over and over throughout the entire runtime. There is a little bit of sporadic nonsense peppered throughout, but that nonsense is just laughable melodrama and insufferable relationship banter between 2 actors who actually hated being on screen together.
I am happy. I'm a happy person.
It turns out a script about chasing the weather really doesn't have much substance to it. Who knew? So, at the end of the day, would I recommend the movie? Well, I'm not sure. Is it good? No, not at all. If you want to see another example of how bonkers movies were in the 90s, then you might want to see it. And if you're old enough to remember it, you may want to see if it still holds up for you. It's not on streaming, but if you do care to check it out, you can find it on Amazon and YouTube.
The suck zone.